Right, this is a road test for a Honda Civic. This is a 1.8 Type S GT. The car is registered RA56LYY. Mileage at the start of this brief road test is 67,500 miles. The reason we do the road test is basically we're now selling to customers from all over the near continent and the extremes of the UK, and we just want people to see the cars in operation prior to coming to see us. So if there's any issues I can pick up on, then you can be aware of that prior to coming to see us. Also worth pointing out, these road tests are done on exactly the same roads as any road test or test drive would be undertaken by a customer, so it should be very representative of what you should experience yourself. As I always do, start with the engine. Engine in the car is absolutely beautiful unit, 1.8 VTEC Honda engine, cam chain driven, no belts or anything daft like that on the car. One of the sweetest I've ever driven. Really lovely engine. Starts instantaneously, first press of the button, idles utterly evenly. It's just a really zingy, zesty engine. It's lovely, revs very, very cleanly. It's now obviously loosened up. It takes quite a long time for Honda engines to get really loose and deliver their full power, and this one's absolutely top of its game. It's a beautiful, beautiful engine. I'll come back to the engine. I'll sort of open it up more on open roads in a second. Engine then goes through the clutch into the gearbox. Clutch on the cars very smooth on actuation. It's quiet. There's no clicking from the ratchets or anything like that. Bites at exactly the right point on the pickup now as I'm doing, and the engagements of the gears are very, very smooth indeed. Obviously 6-speed Honda gearbox, and an absolute lesson to all other manufacturers in how to do gearboxes. Brilliant shift quality, superbly judged synchromesh. It's neither bulky nor is it vague. The linkage rather, or the gear linkage, is absolutely superb. It just, you know exactly what gear you're going to go into, and bear in mind that this is running cables into the gearbox. It shows how well these things can be done. A lot of manufacturers struggle with this, and they end up with kind of very vague, wishy-washy gear changes, but this is really, really superb, and it really it fits the character of the car beautifully. And if you want to zip along and give it some have a bit of fun in the car, you can, but the gearbox rewards. Driving along now, car's tracking absolutely bullet straight, steering utterly precise. There's no wear in it at all, and then more of that in due course. Likewise, the suspension going about its business very smoothly. There's no undue clonks or bangs from underneath the car. You can hear the car going over the bumps, as you should do, but what I can't hear is any kind of metallic noises afterwards, which would suggest that you might have things like a sort of anti-roll bar links or drop links chattering away under there, but there's nothing at all. It's very, very smooth riding. I've always maintained that the Type S GTs are probably the pick of the bunch. They've got slightly wider on the track than the standard Civic, and it just seems to be a slightly more settled ride, in all honesty. Brakes on the car, I'm just going to give them a jab in a second. Yeah, really, really solid brake pedal, right to the right biting point. No pulsing, no vibrations when you hit the brake pedal either. No shudders to the steering wheel, so all in very, very good order underneath. Again, as driving, I'm just listening out for kind of wind noises that shouldn't be there, and what I mean by that is sometimes you get a car which might have had a windscreen seal sort of crimped or something, and it just allows a bit of wind hiss or whistle coming into the car, and this one's got none. It's very, very smooth, very quiet indeed. Worth pointing out, actually, this normally when we buy our cars, we buy them from sort of dealers or otherwise. This particular car we actually sold to a gentleman a couple of years ago, and he's just taken possession of a company car, and I sold it to him a couple of years ago, and he was very kind enough, because I did say to him, if you ever come to sell it, if you have to, or otherwise, bring it back to us, and very kindly he did exactly that. So we're very pleased to see this one back, because it was a wonderful car when he had it, and he's kept it very, very nicely indeed. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to turn left up a lane where the road surface is truly atrocious, but I'm going to open up the car, let it rev through so you can just hear the engine rev out, and I shall shut up. Really lovely engine. It just sort of engine that, you know, actually encourages you to rev it and have a bit of fun, you know, responsibly, quite clearly. But as I was saying before, you know, what makes this car, I think, is the way it's set up with the steering and the chassis. It's you know, sharp is probably the best word to sum it up, because it's got a lovely response to everything that you do. The steering is quick, but what it hasn't got is a horrible soft wallowy chassis which struggles to keep up the steering. You've got a really lovely suspension that, you know, as soon as you turn the wheel, the car's going straight away, but the car doesn't pitch or wallow. It just digs in, very composed. And as an example of one, this is absolutely superb. It really is. You know, just got that feeling of, you know, it might be approaching 10 years old now, or 10 years old even, but it feels like a car that's, you know, only a couple of years off the production line. It's beautifully made, really well made car. Looking inside the car, you know, it's just as I sold it to him, it was in lovely condition then. It still is. The plastics inside the car, absolutely spot on. I can't see any scratches or marks on the plastic of any great note. The main dashboard architecture is absolutely as it was, and the dashboard is a work of art. It looks lovely now. It looks fantastic at night when it's all lit up. You know, you've got a nice big simple radio there. You know, your ventilation and radio controls up above, all pixelation's all perfect on there. And then the best part of the dashboard, this kind of cockpit in front of me, two-tier design. So you've got speedo up above, in exactly the right place. So as I'm looking at the car in front now, I can still see the speed I'm doing out of the corner of my eye. There's no kind of putting my head down, taking my eyes off the road for a second to take my speed in. It's there. It's just a brilliant system. Down below that, there's a binnacle, which is more conventional, but even that has a huge dominating rev counter, which is very simple to assimilate the information. In the middle of that, kind of this floating information display panel. Left and right of that, you've got temperature gauge and fuel gauge. Temperature gauge is running at a third of the way up, which, as I say in all my videos, is exactly where you want to see on any Honda car, so that's absolutely spot on. But it all works beautifully. I mean, it's a very natural driving position, very comfortable indeed. But you know, there's very few cars on the road that are genuinely interesting. You know, there's some very good cars, very worthy cars, and very reliable cars. You know, Honda are, you know, as reliable as any, but you could buy a Toyota or a Nissan, you'd probably fall asleep driving them by comparison. The Honda has a kind of a verve, a feeling that, you know, they haven't just designed it, they've designed it to work well, but to give something back in terms of driver enjoyment. It's, you know, genuinely is a lovely car to drive and sit in, and that's, as you know, as an enthusiast. Interesting that the most common part exchange on the Type S's and the other Civics are sporty cars, you know, things that aren't made anymore, like, you know, the Toyota Celicas and certain Subaru models, and, you know, some sporty Japanese stuff where there isn't a direct replacement anymore, and it seems that Honda sort of cornered this part of the market. But anyway, the whole purpose of the video was to give some feedback as to the car. I can't fault the drive of the car in any way, you know, and I don't think anybody could have came to drive it. The first impression you get in when you drive it is it's solid. It doesn't feel its age in any way, shape or form. Every single thing I've touched and pressed works absolutely beautifully. It's so I'm just checking the cruise control works, and it does beautifully. So I knew I'd forgotten something, and I'll just check the wipers because they're a pet hate of mine. I hate smeary wipers, so I'm just going to give those a go. and we need to put some water in. So found something I need to do. There we are. It's a tiny bit coming out, but no, they don't smear it. But I do need to put some water in. But no, it drives really well. Clearly, if I've missed anything out on the video, don't hesitate. Do give us a call. We'll be absolutely delighted to answer any questions you might have about the vehicle. And we look forward to seeing you.